Fallout 4 is a game built on details. The ruins of Boston are filled with tiny stories hidden inside terminals, skeleton poses, abandoned buildings, and forgotten objects scattered across the wasteland. Some of these details lead to major quests. Others reveal tragic moments from the final days before the bombs fell. But many of them serve no practical purpose at all. They don't unlock powerful weapons, they don't reveal secret endings, and they definitely won't help you survive a Deathclaw attack. Instead, they sit quietly in the background of the game world, waiting for curious players to stumble across them. Small mechanics, strange character behaviours, tiny pieces of trivia that Bethesda included simply because they could. Some of them are funny, some are oddly specific, and some raise a single, unavoidable question. Why does this exist? These are the most pointless facts in all of Fallout 4, and somehow they might also be the most interesting. Cigarettes are everywhere in Fallout. You find them in ruined offices, abandoned homes, and pre-war diners frozen in time. But what makes cigarettes strange is how the game treats them. In the real world, cigarettes obviously have a purpose. In Fallout 4, however, they're essentially useless. You can't smoke them, you can't use them to restore health. And despite the fact that the wasteland is filled with stressed out survivors, no one seems particularly interested in actually using them. Instead, cigarettes mostly exist as junk items. You collect them, scrap them, and turn them into cloth or other crafting components. Which leads to a slightly absurd reality where one of the most recognisable objects from pre-war life has been reduced to nothing more than crafting material. They're not tools, they're not consumables, they're just fabric. One of the game's most controversial features was the introduction of a voiced protagonist. For the first time in the modern Fallout games, the player character actually speaks during conversations. But outside of dialogue, the character occasionally does something strange. They talk to themselves. If you wander the wasteland long enough, you might hear your character muttering random observations about the environment, comments about weather, comments about enemies, sometimes even sarcastic remarks about the situation you're in. These lines don't trigger quests, they don't affect gameplay, and they rarely reveal anything important. They simply exist to make the character feel more alive. But because they happen randomly, they often feel oddly out of place. You could be sneaking through a dangerous raider camp and suddenly your character casually comments on how quiet things are, which is usually the exact moment a firefight begins. If you explore Fallout 4 long enough, you'll start noticing something unusual about teddy bears. They appear everywhere, inside shopping carts, on bathroom floors, sitting at dinner tables. Sometimes they're even arranged in strange poses with other objects. A teddy bear holding a cigarette, a teddy bear reading a newspaper, a teddy bear sitting next to a skeleton like it's part of some dark comedy scene. These moments are examples of Bethesda's environmental storytelling, but they rarely connect to any quest or explanation. There's no deeper lore about why the bears appear this way. They're simply small jokes hidden throughout the world, which means Fallout contains dozens, possibly hundreds of teddy bear scenes that serve no gameplay purpose whatsoever. They exist purely to be discovered and then forgotten again. In the Fallout universe, bottle caps serve as the primary currency. After the collapse of civilization, people somehow agreed that the small metal caps from soda bottles should replace traditional money. But nobody really questions it. Fallout 4 quietly includes one detail that makes this system even stranger. Bottle cap presses exist, machines capable of producing new bottle caps. If someone controls one of these machines, they could theoretically create unlimited money, which would completely collapse the wasteland economy. Yet despite the existence of these machines, no faction in Fallout 4 seems particularly interested in exploiting them. The currency system simply continues as if the obvious problem doesn't exist. It's one of those lore details that raise more questions the longer you think about it. And none of them have satisfying answers. Dogmeat is one of Fallout's most beloved companions. a loyal German shepherd who follows the player across the wasteland, helping in combat and carrying items when your inventory becomes too heavy. But Dogmeat has a strange ability. He understands almost everything you say. You can command him to search areas, retrieve items, attack enemies, and even investigate suspicious objects. He follows complex instructions with perfect accuracy. Yet despite this remarkable intelligence, Dogmeat is still treated like an ordinary dog by the game's world. No one questions it, no one studies it. Everyone simply accepts that this dog is somehow smarter than most humans in the Commonwealth. It's an incredibly useful feature for gameplay, but from a lore perspective, it's completely and utterly weird. Fallout 4 introduced a massive settlement building system. Players could construct towns, assign settlers to jobs, and build entire communities across the Commonwealth. But settlers have one strange behaviour. They almost never leave. Once assigned to a settlement, characters spend the rest of their existence walking between the same buildings and repeating the same routines. They farm crops, they guard walls, they hammer imaginary nails into unfinished structures. And they do this forever, day after day, year after year. Even if the settlement becomes fully developed and self-sufficient, the settlers remain trapped in an endless cycle of simple tasks. They're not really citizens. They're background characters programmed to maintain the illusion of a living town. And once you notice it, the illusion becomes difficult to ignore. The bombs fell in 2077. Fallout 4 takes place more than 200 years later. And yet somehow pre-war food is still everywhere. Boxes of cereal, canned meat, snack cakes, most of them are technically still edible. Some even restore health. Which means that somewhere in the wasteland, people are casually eating food that has been sitting on shelves since before civilization collapsed. Even in a fictional world, that's a little hard to believe. But Fallout 4 has always embraced this absurdity. The idea that the ruins of the old world still contain perfectly preserved junk food, 2 centuries later, is one of the series' most enduring jokes. Fallout 4 recreates the Boston area in impressive detail. Landmarks like Fenway Park, Bunker Hill, and the Massachusetts State House all appear within the game world. But the map takes some creative liberties. Distances are dramatically compressed. Neighbourhoods that are miles apart in real life sit just a few minutes away from each other in the game. And entire sections of the city simply don't exist. This isn't a flaw, it's a necessity. Open world games often have to shrink real world locations to make them easier to explore. But once you realise how much the geography has changed, Boston begins to feel like a strange alternative version of itself. Familiar but slightly distorted. Raiders are some of the most chaotic characters in the game. They live in ruined buildings, fight each other constantly, and survive through violence and scavenging. But if you look closely at their camps, something odd appears. They're surprisingly well organised. Beds are neatly arranged, furniture is placed carefully. Some areas even include decorations or lighting setups that look almost artistic. Which is strange, considering these same characters spend most of their time screaming and attacking strangers on sight. None of these facts will help you defeat the Institute. They won't make your weapons stronger, and they certainly won't make the wasteland any safer. But they reveal something interesting about Fallout 4's design. Bethesda didn't just build a world filled with quests and combat. They filled it with details, tiny pieces of trivia, strange mechanics, odd behaviours that exist purely because someone on the developmental team thought they were interesting. Most players will never notice them, others will discover them by accident. But together they create the strange, chaotic atmosphere that makes Fallout's world feel so alive. Because sometimes the most memorable parts of a game isn't the epic battles or the dramatic storylines. Sometimes they are the pointless details hidden quietly in the background. The things that don't matter at all, but somehow make the world feel bigger because they are there.